We are doing multiplication involving matrices. And here I have a one matrix multiplied by another. The very first step that we need to do in multiplying matrices together is to determine, number one, if we can multiply them. The way that we do that is we determine what type of matrix each one of these two are. So we'll look at the one over here on the left. And matrices are classified by rows multiplied by the number of columns. So this one has 2 rows and 2 columns. So this one is going to be a 2 by 2 matrix. This one over here we have 2 rows as well, but this one we have 3 columns in. So the second one is a 2 by 3 matrix. Now the way we can determine whether we can multiply these two matrices together is to basically look at the middle number here. Okay, both of these middle numbers are 2, which indicates that we can do it. The technical rule is the number of columns in the first matrix has to equal the number of rows in the second matrix in order for this to work. But basically, as long as these two middle numbers here are the same, then we can multiply those two, so we're okay there. Now, once we've determined that we can indeed multiply these two, then we have to determine what our final matrix is going to look like. So if we look at this, now we're going to switch our focus to the outer numbers here, the first number and the last number. The first number is a 2 and the last number is a 3. So the answer will be, and here's the technical rule, it's the number of rows in the first one by the number of columns in the second. Or if you just look at these last two numbers here, that tells us this one is going to be a 2 by 3 matrix. Again, this 2 is the first part, 3 is the second. This will be a 2 by 3 matrix. Okay, so I'm going to move this up and out of the way just so we have room to work here. Okay, but that's basically what it's going to be. It's going to be a 2 by 3 matrix. And a 2 by 3 matrix, again, this is 2 rows and 3 columns. So it's going to look something like this. Here's our 2 rows and our 3 columns. Okay, now what we want to do is we're going to go through this and we're going to multiply each individual one of these. And if we notice, if you're basically multiplying the rows in the first one by the columns in the second one, and those will go in each one of these respective places. For instance, let's try one. I've got a -6 here times -5. Okay, so we'll fill that in here, -6 times -5. I got that right here. We've got to finish off this row here. I still have a 1 and I still have this column here I'm dealing with, which is a 0. So -6 times -5 plus 1 times 0. Okay, and that will all go in the upper left-hand corner here. Okay, so -6 times -5 would give us a positive 30 plus 1 times 0 is 0. So this answer here, when we simplify this one, will give us a positive 30. So we'll write that in the upper left-hand corner because that's where all of this was found here. Now we're going to move on to our next section here, and I'm going to multiply it by this middle column here. So again, we're multiplying this row by the middle column. -6 times 4 is going to be our first component here. We'll write that right here in the middle. -6 times 4, and then we're going to multiply this 1 times -3. Okay, so we've got -6 times 4 plus 1 times -3. So we've got a -24 and a -3. -24 and -3 would be -27. And we're going to write that one right here in the middle on the top. Okay, we've got one more to go on the top here. This is a -6 times -1 that we'll place right here up top. And then this 1 times 1. Okay, we're going to add those together. Again, it's the row. We're going to multiply this row by this column over here. Each one of these columns, we've already multiplied by the first two. Now we're going to go on to the last one as well. Okay, so -6 times -1 is positive 6, plus 1 times 1 is a 7, positive 7. And now we're going to do the exact same thing again, only this time we're going to do it for the bottom section here. And we've got a -6 and a -3 here on our second row in this first matrix. Okay, so we're going to do it. We're going to multiply this second row by each one of these 3 columns. So let's start with the first one here. -6 times -5 is going to be our first component here. Plus, and this is going to be a -3 times 0. Okay, so I've got a -6 times -5 is going to give us positive 30 plus -3 times 0 is 0. So 30 plus 0 is simply 30. So our answer will go here in the bottom left-hand side. Then we're going to go down each one of these. -6 times 4 is going to be our next component. So -6 times 4 plus -3 times -3. And we've got a -6 times 4 is going to give us -24. -3 times -3 is going to give us a positive 9. So -24 plus 9 would give us a -15. We're going to put that here in the bottom center. And then we've got our last one here. Our second row again is -6 and -3. We're going to multiply this by this last column here. -6 times -1 is going to give us a positive 6. Then we're going to add that to -3 times 1. and negative 3 times 1 is going to be negative 3. So we've got a positive 6 minus 3, which will yield us an answer here of positive 3. And this one is our final answer here. This is our 2 by 3 matrix. You see that here. This is a 2-row, 3-column matrix. And we've got each one of the components in here. And if you want to, take a look at each one of these colored components here. That will help a little bit. You notice that this negative 6, 1 is being multiplied by everything that's on top. And this negative 6 and negative 3 is being multiplied by everything on the bottom here, and that's where they'll end up.